welcome to this week's video. For this week, we are doing something a little different, something that I've wanted to do for the past couple of months now. We will be versing book series and versing authors, maybe versing individual books themselves, but it's a series that I've been wanting to do for a while now. It's just a matter of finding the time. And to kick it off, it had to be this video, because this video was the video that inspired the idea to make me want to do a video series. So to kick it off, we will be versing two very popular book series in this video. We will be versing Outlander versus the Bronze Horseman. So we have Outlander by Diana Gabaldon versus the Bronze Horseman by Paulina Simons. Two of my absolute favorite book series of all time. And two series that I have always had trouble picking from, like deciding which one is better. So I think in this video I will have that decision for you. I think. Maybe. So let us go through, I'm not going to go like in depth into like any of the books in this series. I'm just going to tell you what the books in the series are. Starting with the Outlander series, we have 8 books, 9 books so far, but I haven't gotten the 9th book yet. I am going to be getting it soon, but I have not gotten or read the 9th book. So I've read 8 books in this series so far of a 9-book series. We have Outlander, which, and I'm also in the process of getting hopefully all the TV series covers, because yes, I'm that girl. The original covers are fine. If you like the original covers, that's, you know, go with God. You do you. I have so much love for the TV covers, because look at how pretty! Look at how pretty that man is. I'm sorry. Look at how pretty Sam Heughan is. And look at how pretty Katrina Balfe is. I'm sorry. I will be getting all the TV covers when they become available. Book 2 is Dragonfly and Amber. That is a dang, they made that one a big book, which these are big ass books to begin with, but yeesh. Book 3 is Voyager. And that's the extent of the TV covers that I have. The rest are the regular covers that I have had for yearses and yearses. We have Drums of Autumn. We have The Fiery Cross, which is some people's least favorite book. I love this book for the very much reason that it is, for the longest time in this book, it is just Jamie and Claire and their family living life, day-to-day happy life on Fraser's Ridge. And after the fuckery of Outlander to Drums of Autumn, it was nice to have a slower, at least until about like the last third, when like hits the fan, it was nice to have a calmer book. And the continues to hit the fan with A Breath of Snow and Ashes. Shiny. Oof. An Echo in the Bone. And the last one that I have written in my own heart's blood, or Moby. as some people like to call it. So the 9th book has been released, and it's called Go Tell the Bees That I'm Gone. I knew that was going to happen. Eventually it was going to fall over because them big books. Yeah, book 9 is Go Tell the Bees. I do not have that book yet, but I'm in the process of getting it. So we shall see. I guess I'll put a picture up here somewhere. And so that is the Outlander series. Which will be doing battle today against the Bronze Horseman series by Paulina Simons. And this is book 1. And this is book 2, Tatiana and Alexander. And I will say that they have new covers now, but I so much prefer these covers than the new sort of like Renaissance frizzy hair Botticelli painting looking new covers. I do not like those covers like at all. I much prefer these original covers. Book 3 is Summer Garden, which is not some people's favorites for reasons which I will explain as we go through the battle. And then we have a little companion, which I still consider part of the series, a companion book called Tatiana's Table, which is a cookbook. However, there are scenes, extra book scenes that are not in the original trilogy, sprinkled throughout this cookbook. And there's an alternate ending in this cookbook. So if you can, track this little beauty down, because I guarantee it'll be worth it to you. And there is another, there's 2 other books in that series, which I haven't gotten. It's Children of Liberty and I think it's Belengrad, something like that. It's those 2 books, which I'm not in a hurry to read because they're about Alexander's parents, and knowing sort of how their marriage sort of ends up and how the characters ends up, I don't think I would enjoy those 2 books. So I haven't read those 2 books. But I have read the other book in the series, Lone Star, which you think is a standalone of its own sort of series, own sort of book, but yeah, Lone Star, the Bronze Horseman. If you know, you know. That's all I'm going to say about that. So, those are the 2 series that we are going to be discussing today. I got my little notebook here. We are going to be starting with, well, first a little snippety doodah of what the books are about. The Outlander series is about a wonderful, gorgeous, loving, romantic couple. You can argue with me that Outlander is not a romance and blah, blah, blah. The author can argue with me that Outlander is not a romance, and that's perfectly fine. I would argue that the first book, Outlander, is very much a romance. I don't care if you don't agree. That's fine. If you come at me and say, oh, this, and come with me like reams of essays about why Outlander is not a romance, I'm just going to reply with, okay. Just, okay. That's your opinion. You're welcome to your opinion. Go with God. In my opinion, the first book especially is Outlander. It is a romance because it is about Jamie and Claire falling in love and the trials and tribulations and ending with their happily ever after. Now, the rest of the books in this saga, most definitely you can argue they're not romance novels specifically, because there's story arcs with like other characters, and it's sort of an overarching story. and not necessarily Jamie and Claire's romance and the building of that relationship is not necessarily the focus of the entire series. So I would agree with you that the rest of the series is not a romance. But Outlander is the story of a nurse in 1945 who is on her second honeymoon with her hubby Frank, and they go to Scotland, and she falls through some stones and ends up back in time in 1743. Meets some Scots, meets one Scot in particular named James Alexander Malcolm Mackenzie Fraser, and they fall in love, and there is much battles and history and all kinds of drama and heartache, because now to save her life, of course, Jamie must marry Claire, and so there's a marriage of convenience going on, and it's just them sort of like discovering each other and falling in love with each other, and Claire sort of being torn between Jamie and her other husband back in 1945. And so that is sort of the focus of like the first book of her like deciding whether she's going to stay with Jamie or move on to or go back to Frank. At the end of the book, she makes her decision, stays with Frank. Excuse me, sacrilege. She stays with Jamie, and then we get her sort of going back and forth in time due to decisions that need to be made as the series goes on, and you meet Brianna, who is Jamie and Claire's child, and she grows up, and you meet Roger, and sort of those relationships and how they affect Jamie and Claire, and the choices that Brianna and Roger then have to make, and just the overarching, can you change history, should you, where sort of sense of belonging of like the characters, and deciding like, you know, do they belong in the past, do they go back to the future, as it were, and just dealing with the beginning of the saga in 1973 and working towards Culloden, and then once that battle is sort of dealt with, the next sort of hurdle historically that they're facing is the American Revolutionary War that's coming in 1776. So that sort of encompasses the majority of the Outlander series, and that's sort of where we are right now. We're like, with the final book, we're like headed into the Revolutionary War. With the Bronze Horseman, we have Alexander and Tatiana, and it is set during World War II in Russia. Alexander is an American soldier posing as a Russian soldier when he meets a girl, and it's love at first sight, except there's a little bitty problem in that he's already kind of dating someone, not necessarily it's not like a very strong relationship on his end. He likes this woman, but he instantly falls in love with Tatiana, only to discover that Tatiana is the younger sister of the woman that he is currently dating. And so we have that kind of angst, and We have his best friend, Dmitri, who knows Alexander's secret that he's actually an American soldier. He's actually an American, um, who his parents had come to Russia to be communists, and that whole World War II, and it's a whole big mess. It's a big mess. And if Alexander's true identity is discovered, he will very much die. So we have that going on. We have his love with Tatiana and her trying to fight that because she wants to remain loyal to her sister. We have the siege of Leningrad where they are, where it's the Germans who like set up blockades so that food can't get through, and it's the coldest winter. I think it's 1940, 41, 42. I can't remember which year it is exactly. Is it 1941? And so it's the coldest winter that they've had in years. People are starving. People are dying. And amidst this, you have this beautiful love story between Alexander and Tatiana. And the danger of that love. So that is what the two series basically are about. So I thought I would break it down with comparisons with like in different categories. So we're going to start with Jamie versus Alexander. Jamie, to all of us who have read and enjoyed the Outlander series, is the king of men. He is the king of men because he will do anything and go through literally anything to protect those he loves, and specifically to protect the woman he loves. So he is the king of men. Alexander, likewise, will go through anything, and does go through anything to protect Tatiana. Jamie allows himself to be tortured and raped to protect Claire. There is a lot of rapiness going on in the Outlander series. There's a lot of raping. Thankfully, not so. I don't think there's any rape in the Bronze Horseman series. I'm trying to think. I don't think there's no raping happening in the Bronze Horseman series. But yeah, Alexander allows himself to be tortured to protect Tatiana. So in that, they are very much the same. I will give the edge to Jamie, though, because Jamie is, if you were talking specifically about these two men, Jamie is certainly the most likable of the two. Because Jamie is a cinnamon roll of a man. He is the preciousest ginger sex puppy. Alexander is definitely an alpha hero. Most definitely an alpha hero. He can be overbearing. I would agree with those who complain about that he's too overbearing. However, I don't mind it. I don't mind his overbearingness for the most part, because usually it's because he's trying to keep Tatiana alive and the people that she loves alive. Granted, later on in the series, he continues to be overbearing, but that, I think, for the most part, is his suffering PTSD severe PTSD, and fearing that if he does not maintain his overbearing sense, that something bad will happen to Tatiana, or he'll lose Tatiana, or he'll lose his family. So I wouldn't say that Jamie Fraser is an alpha hero. They're both incredibly strong. They're good military men. But Jamie is a bit more lighthearted than Alexander. Yeah, so I think in terms of like, if I had to pick a hero that I wanted to be with for the rest of my life, I think Alexander would be a bit too much. A bit too much for me with the overbearingness and protectiveness, and Jamie has a better sense of humor than Alexander. Alexander has his moments. He has his moments when he's, like lighthearted and like funny, and that's usually when he feels like he's like safe with his woman and his family. However, he doesn't feel that way often. So those lighter moments aren't as often. So I think Jamie Fraser will win this round of who is the better hero. Claire versus Tatiana. They are two very different women. Claire is the not meek and obedient type. Tatiana is the not obedient type while pretending to be meek. Tatiana is a very sort of gentle, soft-spoken, young. She's younger than Claire. She's, I think, 16, 17 when we first meet her. And I think she's very much being taken advantage of by her family, because she is the twin to a brother named Pasha, who is the golden boy of the family. And it's that European thing that, believe me, as a European daughter, I have seen it, I have experienced it. It is a true, true thing. Do not come for me and try and pretend otherwise. European mothers prefer their sons. Not to say that European mothers don't love their daughters. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the boys get better treatment. And this is very much the case between Tatiana and her brother Pasha. She is the one that the family very much takes advantage of it. She does most of the... I don't think she does very much of the cooking, because when we meet her, she is not a very good cook, admittedly. But she's the one that they sort of pile on everything else. The cleaning, the shopping, the doing all the things. And she sort of lets them do that to her, because her love language is servitude. Definitely. Not to say that Tatiana's not a strong girl and doesn't grow into a strong woman. She most definitely is. She is a gentle little kitten with the heart of a lioness. Like, she is the literal definition of steel in a velvet glove. Most definitely. And we see that as she is sort of the one who is left to do everything. and be strong for her family as they fall apart. Claire is a lioness with the heart of a lioness. Like, she will give her opinion on everything. She will shoot her mouth off. She will let you know all her thoughts about things. If she does not agree with something, she will let you know. She is a doctor, and that definitely helps her when she goes back in time. And Tatiana becomes a nurse, so they're sort of similar in that way. However, Tatiana doesn't listen to Alexander any more than Claire does. She's just less ballsy about it. She will nod and smile. Tatiana will nod and smile and pretend that that she's totally listening to what Alexander is telling her, but she will dig her heels in and do what she wants to do, what she thinks is best, to protect the man that she loves. Claire will listen to Jamie and then verbally tell him, I'm not going to do that. She will most definitely not stay put when he tells her to. Tatiana will tell Alexander that she will stay put, and then chase him across America back into Russia to go rescue his ass. I love both of these women so much, so very much. But if I had to pick one to be friends with, I think I might pick Tatiana. Because as much as I love Claire, there are times when I don't like her so much. When she's like, there are times when she's like giving her opinions on things, and when she's doing things just to be contrary, in my opinion. Just to, like, raise that feminism flag of like, you can't tell me what to do, and blah, blah, blah. Even if Jamie is right, and what she wants to do puts them all in a dumpster fire. I think she's too focused on not letting any man tell her what to do, to the detriment of common sense. It's more about her espousing her opinions and being not independent. That's not the word that I'm looking for, but not being obedient. not to be seen as obedient, than to her being like a strong character. It's more about her being not meek and obedient, as opposed to her being a strong character. Because as much as I love Claire, as much as I love how ballsy she is often, there are times when she's just plain wrong. And she should have listened to Jamie. So I think I would hang out with Tatiana more than I would hang out with Claire, because if I hang out with Tatiana, her mouth won't get me into shit. Claire is the kind of woman that if the two of you are at a club, she will be the first one to like start a bar fight. And I'm not here for that. I'm not here for that. I can't fight. So I'm gonna stay with Tatiana. Writing styles between Diana Gabaldon and Paulina Simons. They both write beautiful books. Both of them. The stories are just immersive and incredible and just compelling and action-packed, and just they are both fantastic storytellers. But if we're talking about writing style specifically, I'm going to have to go with Paulina Simons for this one. Because Paulina Simons has this beautiful, lyrical, I don't think you'd call it flowery, but some people who don't like the style might call it flowery. She just has this beautiful, lyrical, flowing way of writing that is like she is weaving a spell around you with her words. Diana Gabaldon is very good at telling a story, but it's more straightforward. It's not that Paulina Simons doesn't write linearly. She does. It's in order, and it's like scene, 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 scene. But Diana Gabaldon, like, I wouldn't describe her writing style as lyrical. She's very much telling you a story, still in an immersive way. Like, she's not like telling and not showing. She's showing. You're in the story. You're immersed completely. She has a tendency to sort of, and this is like she's said that this is often like the way she writes. Like, she doesn't write in order. She writes in sort of like piecemeal like bits. And I think that comes through in the books, where the story is in order, but they can be choppy, and they can be, I'm not overly fond of her transitions, because she will leave a scene and then automatically like pick up another scene for a while, for a good long while, and you're still waiting. You want to find out what happened in the first scene, but it'll take her a while. It's like you're over here and she's, taking a little trip around, but you're still waiting, and eventually you're going to get back to here, but you just have to take that little trip with her. So that's sort of Diana Gabaldon's writing style, which it works, and she's a fantastic storyteller. She just has a tendency to drop scenes and then take a while to get back to them. She'll go off and like talk about what other characters are doing, and this happens more and more. I think that's why Outlander is one of my favorites of the series, because it's more, it's a more cohesive sort of well-rounded, easier, linear to follow book. The rest of the series, as new characters come along, she has a tendency to go off with like other characters for a while, and you're waiting for her to get back to this scene that you really like, or that scene that you really like, and continue on with that little subplot. So if we're talking writing styles, again, I'm going to have to give it to Paulina Simons, because I think with there's a little bit, I think, of back and forth in Tatiana and Alexander, but I think that's because the two of them are apart in that book, and you get to see what's going on with Alexander and what's going on with Tatiana. So there's a little bit of back and forth there, but they do, later on in the book, like, come back together. So there's a little bit of that in Tatiana and Alexander. I don't think there's that in Summer Garden, which is book 3. But there might be, because I know that there's a section where you get a little bit of Alexander as a young, before he meets Tatiana. So there's a little bit of that, but I can't remember if that is in Tatiana and Alexander or the Summer Garden. But again, there's not as much of it in Paulina Simons' book as there is in Diana Gabaldon's. So for that, I will have to give it to Paulina Simons in the sense of writing style. Settings. I don't think I could pick this round, because Diana Gabaldon does a fantastic job, and Paulina Simons does a fantastic job of putting you there in the settings of the stories that they're writing. Me. I knew I was going to talk a lot, so I have my water. So they both do fantastic jobs with the settings, in the sense of Diana Gabaldon, when Claire is traveling with the soldiers, with the Scotsmen, and later on with the militia, you feel the sort of uncomfortableness of, like, when it's like really, really hot, or when they're sleeping on the ground, and like you feel the sweat and the stickiness and then like in the rain, and like when it's like dripping down her back, and it's just when the sun is beating down on them, and when in the wintertime when it's like bone-chillingly cold, and when they're inside on the ridge, and they're in their home, and like the fire is like going, and it's like warm and it's cozy, and it's just the smells, and just wonderfully done. Same thing with Paulina Simons. When they're in that Siege of Leningrad, you feel the bone-chilling cold. You can feel the ice on the stairs that Tatiana is struggling to climb down, and climb back up again, as she's like struggling to go and like get whatever cardboard rations of food she is able to get for her family. You feel the heat of Lazarevo? I know I said that wrong, but the river where Tatiana and Alexander finally go, and like they get married, and they have their like little bubble of happiness before everything goes to shit again. You feel the heat there. You feel the like when Tatiana and Dasha are like out on the frozen lake, and the cold there, and just when they're starving, you feel the bone-gnawing hunger. When in the later series, in the Summer Garden, when they're in Arizona, the stifling humidity of just, you're like just melting. And so I don't think I could pick between the two of them on setting, because they both do a fantastic job on setting. So it's a tie there. Next we have sex scenes. Sexy times. Both of these series, thank you Lord Jesus, have sexy times. And they're both very good at writing sex scenes. Jamie and Claire definitely have the hot sexy times. Tatiana and Alexander definitely have the hot sexy times. I don't know if I could pick between them, because while I said that I love Paulina Simon's lyrical writing style, her sex scenes, as wonderful, maybe I can pick. Her sex scenes, as wonderful and beautifully crafted and just musical as they are, you could, if you're being picky about it, you could call them flowery. Diana Gabaldon's sex scenes, they're more direct, I guess is the word. Like, when we're talking about Jamie's cock, we're talking about Jamie's cock. You know, like we're where I don't know how like anatomical Paulina Simon's sex scenes could actually be considered. It's more about the emotions, and like, don't get me wrong, they're explicit, and it's definitely not closed door. But I think Diana Gabaldon has a little bit, just a smidge of an edge, in that her sex scenes are more just sort of direct and like yeah, I'm not sure how else to, yeah, so I'd give Diana Gabaldon the edge on the sex scenes. Yeah, that's my final answer. Villains. Okay, so in the Outlander series, we have Blackjack Randall. We have Stephen Bonnet. We have that piece of shit Brown, who I'm not sure what his first name. I want to say Lionel, but I'm not sure if that's the brother or if that's the actual rapey son of a bitch. But we'll call him Rapey Brown. So we have Rapey Brown, we have Stephen Bonnet, we have Blackjack Randall. I think those are the three sort of main villains of the Outlander series. In Bronze Horseman, we have Dimitri. We have, I think it's Ouspensky, who ends up being a traitorous son of a bitch. And pretty much all of the NKVD guy. I don't remember who the leader guy is of that. He's sort of like I'm having a brain fart remembering his name right now. So yeah, Dimitri is a piece of shit who starts off as Alexander's best friend, but slowly shows himself to be a jealous piece of crap who sets his sights on Tatiana, but only really sets his sights on Tatiana once he sees how much Alexander wants her. Dmitri is jealous of Alexander, has always been jealous of Alexander, and only sets his sights on Tatiana because Alexander wants her. And uses that very much to his advantage to pretty much blackmail Alexander, because Dmitri knows Alexander's true identity, that he's an American. So this causes so much misery in Alexander and Tatiana's life. But I will have to give the villains category again to Diana Gabaldon, because Blackjack Randall, Stephen Bonnet, and Rapey Brown are all rapey sons of bitches. Blackjack Randall is an English soldier who becomes obsessed with Jamie and tortures and rapes him. And keeps popping up in the I think he's gone in Voyager. I think he pops up in Outlander, unfortunately, and then Dragonfly and Amber, unfortunately. He torments Jamie and Claire, and hurts little baby Fergus as well, and is just a sadist and just evil and just has no redeeming qualities at all. I would say if you were looking for one, if you were really, really trying to like pull even like a smidge of something non-evil about him, it would be his love for his brother Alex Randall, who is the polar opposite of Blackjack Randall. But Blackjack Randall is the head baddie, and is the king of evil men in the Outlander series. But he dies in book 2. So we need a new baddie. And he comes along in the guise of one Stephen Bonnet, who is a crazy McCrazerson pirate that Roger has the very much misfortune of ending up on his ship, because he's trying to get to Brianna. And Stephen Bonnet meets Brianna after having robbed her mother and father and stealing their wedding ring. And Brianna sees the wedding ring and wants the wedding ring back. So Stephen Bonnet is like, how about we make a deal, sex for the wedding ring? And Brianna says not so much and goes to leave, and he won't let her leave and ends up raping her. But she does get the ring back, so there's that. And then Brianna and Roger reunite, and it's all wonderful. And they have the sex, and it's wonderful. And then, oh crap, Brianna's now pregnant. Who to daddy? They're in the past. There's no such thing as Maury Povich, so there's no way for them to really know who baby Jemmy's father is. But Brianna, in a moment of mercy, stupidity, potato, tells Stephen Bonnet the day that before he is supposed to die, that Jemmy is his. For the why? 4 reasons. But it ends up causing some problems because Stephen Bonnet does not so much die and comes back, and Brianna and Roger are now with Jamie and Claire on the ridge, and Jemmy is an adorable little blonde boy played in the series by these 2 blonde little twins who are the preciousest. And then Stephen Bonnet comes around and decides that he wants to be a daddy. And he wants Brianna with him. So he's going to kidnap her and eventually the baby, little Jemmy. And Brianna is like, not so much, and shoots him in the head after he gets captured, after he gets arrested, and they're going to drown him. But Stephen Bonnet has these like bad nightmares about fears of drowning, and so in another act of mercy, Brianna shoots him before he can drown. So we get rid of Stephen Bonnet. But the series still goes on, and we need another baddie. So what to do? We meet the Browns. The Browns, who are in North Carolina, and they are sort of the neighborhood watch times 100, who are sort of working for the crown, kind of, in a way. They're sort of like the muscle of like the crown, and they are there to sort of stop any murmurings of rebels, and yeah. So we get Rapey Brown, who is I'm not sure if he's the leader or if he's sort of like the leader with his brother, who is either Lionel or some other. One of them is named Lionel. But Rapey Brown is a piece of crap who abuses his wife and doesn't like that these women in his village, or the women that he knows, and including his wife, are starting to get these ideas about things like contraception from a Dr. Rawlings, who is the pseudonym that Claire has appropriated for herself in order to dispense medical advice via in the newspapers. Because Lord knows, in the 1770s, ain't nobody going to be taking medical advice from a woman. It was hard enough for her to get into that medical class in the 60s. Never mind the 1770s. So Rapey Brown finds out that Claire is Dr. Rawlings, and he doesn't handle it in the most common, rational of manners. He kidnaps Claire and punishes her and rapes her and has his men rape her. So I think in terms of villains, I think we can very easily see that the Outlander series definitely wins that round. I mean, the Bronze Horseman, you've got Dimitri, you've got Ouspensky, you've got the NKVD, who are like Russian Secret Service kind of people, who are kind of like the Russian Gestapo, I guess. That's like the closest comparison that I made sort of in my head. Not the gazpacho, as a certain Republican said, but Gestapo. So I think Diana Gabaldon definitely wins that round. Supporting characters. I would give it to the Outlander series again. Because the Bronze Horseman, it's pretty much just Alexander and Tatiana once we move on into the series. I mean, we have, in the beginning of the book, we have Dasha and we have Dmitri, who fits in the villain category, but yeah, it's pretty much just those, like we have like Tatiana's family who are around for a while, who are not the best. She does not have the best parents. Her grandparents are great. Deda and Babushka. I don't know what her actual name is. Tatiana's grandmother's name. But I loved her grandparents so very much, especially Deda. And Dasha is the sister, Tatiana's sister, who Alexander dates before he meets Tatiana. And Dasha, for a long time, is very sort of self-involved and selfish, and she doesn't sort of see what is happening between Tatiana and Alexander for a long time, until their cousin Marina comes to visit, and Marina sees it like right away. And I think, I'm trying to remember, I think I liked Marina because she knew what was going on like right away. And I'm trying to think, because I don't think Marina is the same girl who, in the Summer Garden, you get this sort of little subplot of, there was this girl who was just horrible to Tatiana when they were children. And she makes Tatiana get lost, and Tatiana like falls into like this well. And I don't think it's Marina that does it. I could be wrong. And I want to be wrong, because in my head I like Marina. But I don't remember if I'm blocking out that it was her that made Tatiana fall into a well when they were kids. But yeah, so we have Marina, we have Dasha, we have Tatiana's grandparents, who are great, Tatiana's parents, who are trash, especially her mother. Her mother is just the biggest unnice woman, who dotes on the son, again, European mothers, dotes on the son and barely has, I mean, I know, like, at least in like my experience, my mother at least was like, loved her daughters. Family issues aside, but Tatiana's mother had no time for Tatiana unless it was to do something for her. And I remember when Pasha has to like go off and is like the first one to like as the boy has to go, gets drafted to go fight in the war, and we believe that he dies. We believe Pasha, news gets back that it looks like Pasha died. And the mother is like talking to her husband at night, and of course the walls are like paper thin, so you can hear everything. And the mother literally says, why couldn't it have been Tatiana who died? Why was it our darling Pasha? And Tatiana hears this. And of course is hurt by it, but still, like does everything the mother wants. I think in the hopes that she could earn her mother's love, which is just tragic because this woman did not deserve any of the things that Tatiana did for her. I mean, when like things get really, really bad, and you understand these people are hungry, these people are weak, these people are starving, but so is Tatiana. And yet the mother does not do anything to try and save her children. It's Tatiana who drags herself down those icy stairs, who drags herself through mountains of snow to try and get the smidgenest bit of bread, which she will not eat herself, she will give to her family. I hated her mother with the passion of 1,000 hot suns. I will give it to Diana Gabaldon, definitely on supporting characters, because we got Jamie and Claire. We got Murtaugh, who is Jamie's godfather, who is a grumpy darling of a man. We got Dougal, who is a grumpy, not darling. Definitely not. Who is Jamie's uncle. We have Galus, who is a witch that we learn is witch, who is actually also a fellow time traveler. We have Ned, who is the lawyer. We have Brianna, who is Jamie and Claire's daughter. We have Brianna's husband, Roger, who we learn is a descendant of Galus and Dougal's. We have Ian Sr., who is Jamie's best friend. We have their sister, Jamie's sister Jenny, who is just a tinier little ballsy version of Claire. Definitely know why those two become best friends. Wish we could get more of their relationship on the series, but the actress who plays Jenny is off doing something else, which is sad because I think if you're going to sign up for a character that you know is part of a series, you should make yourself available for hopefully later when that character shows up in later books, and hopefully the series will echo those later storylines. I hope that Jenny is able to come back, because she is an important part of the later books and hopefully will be brought in the series. But I loved her character. I loved Ian Sr., but because without them, we would not get the darling that is young Ian. This darling dorky peanut, I cannot espouse to you how much I love this boy. He starts off as this precious little lemon drop who idolizes Jamie and wants to follow him around everywhere and wants to be just like him, to his detriment. Because then poor dorky peanut gets kidnapped, put on a ship, somehow ends up in Jamaica, gets kidnapped by Galus, who has lost her frickin' mind and wants to use young Ian, yes, like that, and then kill him and bathe in his blood. So Galus goes a little cuckoo in la cabeza, and poor young Ian is raped by Galus, and then he's rescued, of course, by Jamie and Claire, and then he and Jamie do a stupid, but it is an understandable stupid. because they are led by Brianna's maid, lady in waiting, Lizzie. They are led by Lizzie to believe that Roger, and not Stephen Bonnet, is the man that raped her. So, in true He-Man, proud ass butt style, they beat the crap out of Roger and sell him to the Mohawks, where he's there for a while, suffering a lot, having a very bad, no good day for a long time. Finally, they rescue him, but the Indians are like, you still need to make up to us. If we're giving this guy back to you, we need something in return. So young Ian is like Katniss in Hunger Games. I volunteer, and becomes part of the Mohawk. So we have Ian, we have young Ian, we have Bree, we have Roger, we have Lizzie, we have Jenny, we have Ian Sr., we have probably I don't think I've read one single person who hates this character. I don't think. And I'm talking about the precious blueberry that is Lord John Grey. Lord John Grey is Jamie's BFF. Now that Ian Sr. is stuck in Scotland with his wife, and Jamie has to start this new life. Jamie and Lord John Grey meet while Jamie is in prison after the Battle of Culloden, and they develop this wonderful, beautiful friendship that springboards off the fact that Lord John Grey is very much wants him some Jamie Fraser. He is so in love with Jamie. But Jamie is like, I'm sorry, I'm just not that into you. I'm in love with my wife Claire, even though I may possibly never see her again because she's gone back to the future with my baby. Of course, he doesn't tell Lord John that. But what Lord John does do is agree to raise the child that Jamie ends up having with this girl, Geneva, in the 20-year block that he and Claire are apart. Because Jamie cannot be a father to this boy, or he will not inherit his lorddom, Lord John agrees to raise the child as his own, or not sort of as his own. I don't remember. Does William think that the old man who was Geneva's husband was his father, and think that Lord John is just sort of like his guardian? Or does he think that Lord John Grey is his father? I can't remember that. But I also did want to throw in that for villains, we forgot Leary. Leary, who wanted... So again, another side on the Diana Gabaldon Villains Plus was Leary, who was a crazy girl who was obsessed with Jamie and thought that he belonged with her, and even went so far as to set Claire up and have her arrested for being a witch. So that was Leary. But in the supporting characters, it has to be Diana Gabaldon. She's got, like, I mean, Bronze Horseman has, like, Dasha and Vicky. Let's not forget Vicky in the later series, who becomes sort of Tatiana's best friend. And also becomes something else. which I'm not going to. Should I spoil? This has been kind of spoily, hasn't it? I think so. Yeah. So I'm gonna, yeah. So Vicky ends up having an affair with Tatiana's son, and they end up together for a while. Because, and I say for a while, for a long while, because I think Vicky ends up dying. Yeah, Vicky ends up dying, sadly. That's very sad. But yeah, supporting characters, I think she's got, Paulina Simons has got Dasha, Vicky, Marina, the grandparents, and the parents who are trash. So I think Diana Gabaldon wins this round for supporting characters that we actually like. Angst levels. Oosh. Well, there's a lot of rape in the Outlander series. You have Claire and Jamie being apart for 20 years when he sends her to the future, back to the future, because he knows that she's pregnant, and they've already lost one baby, Faith, in Dragonfly and Amber, and that's just heartbreaking. And to avoid that happening again, they're sort of in the middle of the Battle of Culloden, and Jamie tells Claire that she has to go because he knows that they're going to lose the battle, and he cannot time travel, but he has to stay and fight with his men because loyalty and honor and pride. But he knows he is either going to die or be, he's like 99.9% sure that he is about to die. And he doesn't want anything to happen to Claire without him around, because let's be honest, when these two are apart, it's not good for anybody. Because shit goes down when these two are apart. Every time they separate, no good comes of it. Where so much so that when it comes to like other TV shows, whenever characters are like, oh, let's split up and do this, I'm like, no, don't be like Jamie and Claire. That's a thing now. When characters separate, it's like, don't be like Jamie and Claire. Because you know no good will happen. So it's heartbreaking when he has to send her back through the stones to save her and the little baby that she's carrying, which will end up being Brianna. We have Jamie giving himself up to be tortured and raped by Blackjack Randall to save Claire. We have like just Roger and Brianna and the angst of deciding to stay with Jamie and deciding to either stay in the past or go to the future because one of their children has like a medical emergency that cannot be treated in the past. So there's that sort of separation that has to happen. There is Fergus and Marceli, who little baby Fergus, who grows up to be this hot AF dude who like loses a hand. He loses a hand as a youngster, but he's sort of like their surrogate son, Jamie and Claire's surrogate son. And Marceli is Leary's daughter, who has her mother's brain, sort of like very like, she has like her mother's sort of like fire and strength, I get, if you can call Leary a strong character. Like, she's ballsy, But Marceli uses her powers for good. And there's sort of like the angst of Marceli, like popping out a kid every year. She's on like kid 25 at this point. Not really, but it seems that way. She is perpetually pregnant. And something happens with Marceli and Fergus and a baby that they have. So that is an incredible amount of angst that happens. And there's a choice made about this baby that Diana Gabaldon makes, which I know that there are people who don't agree with a lot of things in Diana Gabaldon's books, and for the most part, I don't agree with them. I agree with them about this. Most definitely. I hated the Henry Christian ending. How that storyline ended. I despised it with every fiber of my being. I wonder how the series is going to deal with it. I've started episode 1 of season 6. I haven't seen 2 and 3, but I've heard like little bits and pieces here and there about it. I'm trying not to hear too much because I'm doing reaction videos for Outlander season 6. So I don't want to be spoiled really for anything. So Marceli and Fergus have a lot of angst. Roger and Brianna have a lot of angst. Jamie and Claire are like the king angst couple of, I think, this series. And then you have Tatiana and Alexander, who have definitely a lot of angst. You have Alexander trying to protect Tatiana and like keep her alive during the war, all while he still has to go off and fight the war. You have Tatiana trying to fight her feelings for Alexander because she loves her sister. As selfish and self-involved as Dasha is, and how often undeserving of that love Dasha is, Tatiana adores her sister and doesn't want to betray her by essentially stealing her boyfriend. So this leads to Tatiana making a lot of frustrating choices. And then we have Alexander, again, willingly intending to give up his life to save Tatiana, in the same way that Jamie gives himself up to be tortured and essentially makes the decision to give up his life for Claire. Alexander does the same thing for Tatiana. They have the angst of being apart, Tatiana and Alexander, where Tatiana believes that he's dead. Same thing with Outlander. We have Jamie and Claire being apart for like 20 years because Claire believes that he died at Culloden. And then Claire learns the truth, and then Tatiana learns the truth. And Claire has a much easier time getting back to Jamie than Tatiana does getting back to Alexander. But pretty much once Claire and Jamie are reunited, they're pretty much solid. Once like the whole hiccup with Leary and Jamie having married Leary, once they get sort of like over that hiccup, they're pretty much solid for the rest of the series. Not so much Alexander and Tatiana. Not in the sense that they don't love each other and that them loving each other is not the issue. It's Alexander's PTSD and them constantly being on the run when Tatiana breaks him out of the Russian prison. And they're constantly on the run. She brings him back to America, but there are people who are still, she thinks there are people that are still after him. And so they're constantly moving around, and he has this PTSD from being tortured in prison. And so it's hard for him to fit into this mold of being like a husband and father, even as much as he wants to be Tatiana's husband and little Anthony's father. And then we have Tatiana, who is suffering from so much survivor's guilt because she has lost her entire family in this war, her entire primary family or extended family in this war. She's lost her grandparents. She's lost her mother and father. She's lost her brother. She's lost her grandparents. Like, Tatiana is all that's left. And she has such survivor's guilt that she tries to her detriment to feel like if she can just continue to be this servant who is constantly helping people, is like, she becomes a nurse to sort of refill that, to make herself feel worthy of the happiness that she has of having the man that she loves back and having his son and building this life that she feels she does not deserve because of everything that all the people that have died. And so this survivor's guilt that she has, coupled with Alexander's PTSD, leads to so much angst in their marriage that I'm not sure who wins this round. I want to say that Paulina Simons wins this round. For the simple reason that a lot of shit goes down in the Outlander series. You have torture, you have rape, you have families being torn apart. You have Jamie who doesn't get to be a father to his children until they're grown, because William does not find out that Jamie is his father until he's a man, and Brianna does not find out that Jamie is her father until she's a college age woman, until she's a grown woman. But once Jamie and Claire are pretty much reunited back together, there's drama that happens sort of around them, and there's the sadness of potentially of when Roger and Brianna have to go back to the future, and then like them coming back to them. But Jamie and Claire sort of as a whole, as a unit, as a couple, they're pretty much golden once they get past the whole like reunion moment of like getting to know each other again and getting past the Leary hiccup and that kind of thing. Tatiana and Alexander, their happy ending and their being reunited after Tatiana rescues him from the Russian prison, things are not okay with them. Things are very much not okay. And they get very, very bad. Very bad. And leads them to make some very bad decisions. Which leads to my next category, which is the incident. But for this round, I think I'm going to give it to Paulina Simons. Because it is a lot harder for Tatiana and Alexander to get their happy ending than it is for Jamie and Claire. So I'm going to give it to Paulina Simons in that one. And now our final category is the incident. A lot of things happen in Outlander, the series. A lot of things happen in the Bronze Horseman, the series. But there's a standout moment in each of them that the majority of fans are in an uproar about. The first one we're going to talk about is in the actual Outlander series, is actually in the first book of the Outlander series. And it is a scene where a lot of people call it either the spanking scene or the beating scene, depending on which end of the spectrum you fall on, of what your thoughts of that scene was. Jamie has just rescued Claire from Blackjack Randall after Claire doesn't listen to him and doesn't stay put. And manages to get herself kidnapped by some Englishmen and brought to Blackjack Randall, where she is almost raped, but Jamie manages to get to her in time and rescue her, and he is pissed. He is understandably, justifiably angry because he knew, yes, he could have brought her along with them and blah, 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 but he didn't. And he told her, he knew that her chomping off around in the woods, this was a dangerous place. She was gonna get it. Bad things could befall her if she didn't just stay there and wait for him. Because he thought that she would be safer there in that place than off with him, going off to like fight somebody. I think somebody stole like cattle or something like that. And they had been attacked already. Him and Claire had been attacked by English soldiers, and where Claire had to kill a guy. So Jamie is like, okay, maybe I'm going to go and have to do this thing, but I want to make sure that you're safe, so I'm not going to bring you with me in case shit goes down, so you stay here. Claire's like, I'm not going to stay here. I'm not going to do what you tell me. I am woman. Hear me roar. You can't tell me what to do. So feminism countered common sense, and just because it was a man trying to tell her what to do, Claire decides that she's going to go off and do what she wants, and goes and gets herself captured by these English soldiers, just as Jamie was afraid might happen. So Jamie's understandably pissed, and all his men are understandably pissed, because now that Jamie has had to go rescue her dumbass, the English soldiers are now after all of them. Again, I love Claire. Do not get me wrong, I love Claire. And I love her baldiness on occasion. On occasion, it leads her to do some really stupid shit. And this was one of the stupid shit that she do. And so the men are mad at her and sort of want nothing to do with her and sort of shun her. And so Jamie sees that he has no choice but to punish her so that he does not appear weak in front of his men, the men that they're traveling with, and so that he can keep their loyalty, and so that he can count on them protecting Claire as she travels with them. So he thinks that he has to do this. He has to beat Claire to get the men back on their side. Because they're already, initially, this was an English woman who traipsed into their world. They don't trust her. They were starting to come around on her because Jamie married her, and sort of they were grudgingly beginning to accept her. And then she pulled this stupid shit. And so she is back on their shit list. And Jamie feels that he has to do this to get her back in with them. Claire, of course, understandably, is not for this plan. And the show, I think, handled it a little bit better, but it was still controversial, and I understand people who haven't had a problem with it. I did not have a problem with it because of the fallout and like what happens later, and that I am not one of those people who will automatically disregard a male character because he is problematic. I hate that word like you have no idea. Problematic is just a reader or TV watcher being too lazy to go on a character journey with someone. And so they pretend to be all like woke and be like, I will only like good men who never do anything wrong. And I have no time for flawed, realistic, human men who make mistakes. And I have no time to go on that journey to watch them evolve and become better people. I don't have time with them. So I'll don't have time with them. So I'll just use popular internet terms so that I can get a lot of, likes and seem all like woke and get myself into like really high like internet standing. I have certain people that I can name in both the romance novel community and in the fandom, but I won't. But yeah, I did not see that scene as an issue because of the fallout, and because of how Jamie learns that what he did was not okay. He thought that he was justified, and he thought that he had good reason for doing what he did, and that's sort of how a lot of the men around him sort of dealt with their women, and he actually thought that he had better reason for doing what he did than, he didn't think that he was like maybe like many abusers around his world that he saw, who just beat their wives daily for like no reason. He wasn't thinking of himself in that way. He thought that he was doing what he was doing for a good reason. Now, granted, the show handled it in like I like the way the show handled it, in that it made it sort of like more humorous. But yeah, it was definitely an incident that left the fandom and book readers in an uproar. In the same way, there is an incident that happens in the Summer Garden in the Bronze Horseman series, book 3, where, again, as I mentioned, Alexander is suffering from severe PTSD. Tatiana is throwing herself into her self-flagellation, tormenting herself with her job as a nurse, taking care of everyone because she has this intense survivor's guilt, to the detriment of her marriage. She, as much as she loves Alexander and her child, she doesn't feel that she has a right to this happy life. So she feels like, if I can just be as selfless as possible, if I can just, not do or not want anything for myself, if I can just give everything to, these people that I'm taking care of at the hospital, if I can just keep saving these lives and doing everything that I can to save these lives, it will make up for the lives that I couldn't save. It will make up for the fact that I stole my sister's boyfriend and then my sister died. It will make up for the fact that my mother didn't love me. And Alexander is dealing with the torture that he had experienced, just everything that came along with that, and trying to be a husband, trying to be a father to this son that he just recently met at like 4 years old. So their marriage is pretty much the only peace they can find with each other is basically when they're having sex. That's the only communication and point of contact that they have with each other. And they keep having these fights about Tatiana going off and like spending like more time at the hospital than she does at home. And, Alexander going like out with his friends and like smoking and like just going out to the bar, and like it's just this sort of like powder keg that is about to explode. And they have this fight, and Alexander goes off and goes off and meets this woman who is a friend of like one of his workers. And so like he doesn't like meet her for the first time, but I mean, he meets up with her at this bar. And they go back to his truck, and they very, very much nearly have sex. He nearly ends up cheating on Tatiana. Some would say that he does cheat on Tatiana because while they don't have intercourse, the woman does give him a blowjob in the truck. And the only thing, thankfully, Alexander stops himself because he comes to his senses and snaps out of what he's about to do, because not that he forgot, but he remembers how hard he and Tatiana have fought to be together, what Tatiana has gone through to be with him, what Tatiana has done for him, what he has done for her, and just how strong their love really is, that he stops himself and goes back to Tatiana, and they have it out. They have a knockdown, drag out fight where at one point, I think the fight happens, I want to say the fight happens after he comes back from the woman. But I could be wrong, and the fight happens before. Because there's a point where he slaps Tatiana. He slaps Tatiana because she says something along the lines of, because after Anthony, it's taking her a long time to get pregnant again. And they want another child desperately, but it's not happening. And Tatiana makes a comment that she's glad that she's not getting pregnant because if she were to find out that she was pregnant of a child of his, she would take a coat hanger to it. To me, and like that's when he slaps her. Some people have issues with the fact that he slaps her. I did not. Because to me, what she says is worse. And again, please, I am pro-choice. What your body is your body. But we know for a fact that Alexander and Tatiana, any child that she would have, she would want to have. She says that in a fit of rage to hurt Alexander, and it works. Yeah, I think it's because Alexander, I think, tells her, or she finds out about what happened in the truck. And that's when they have their knockdown, drag-out fight. Forgive me if I'm screwing up the sequence of events, but that happens. So, those are what is referred to the incident in the Outlander series and the Bronze Horseman series. Now, I think I'd have to give it to Paulina Simons again in this one, because with the incident in the Outlander series, with the beating / spanking, as today, in the setting of today, we know that that's not okay. In the historical sense, again, it's still not okay. Nobody's saying that it's okay. But we're talking about the character motivations in that time. In that time, Jamie thought that that was how you kept your wife in line. And that he thought that that's what he needed to do to keep Claire in line and to make sure that the men that they were with would continue to support her and protect her. And to help him do so. So I think the worse in terms of severity would be Alexander and Carmen, I think her name was, in the truck. I think that was worse. So I give it to Paulina Simons on that one. Yeah, because of the reader has followed Alexander and Tatiana and everything that they've gone through to be together. But again, Tatiana was able to forgive him. And I think, seeing it, I think Paulina Simons did in my opinion, fantastic job of laying the groundwork for the powder keg of that moment. Because while it was certainly a shocking moment, I was not surprised in the least that it happened. At all. Because she did such a good job of laying the groundwork of the frays and tears that were occurring in this marriage. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until it just exploded. So, yeah, I think Paulina Simons wins this round. So, let me see if I can run down what we got here. We have Jamie versus Alexander. Jamie. Claire versus Tatiana, Tatiana. Writing styles, Paulina Simons. Setting, both. Sex scenes, Diana Gabaldon. Villains, Diana Gabaldon. Supporting characters, Diana Gabaldon. Angst levels, Paulina Simons. The incident, Paulina Simons. The winner. Now, if you're going by if you're going by my hand, it would seem that Outlander is the winner. However, I think just based on, like, when you throw in the writing style with all the other, even though there's not as many points in the Paulina Simons, the Bronze Horseman side, I think the writing style saves any pitfalls or like lower things that the Bronze Horseman series has over the Outlander series. So even with like throwing in versing the categories, I'm still gonna say that if I had to only keep one series, if I had to give away one series, if I was forced to and someone held a gun to my head and said, you cannot keep both, you have to keep only one, I would keep the Bronze Horseman series. Just because as much as there were things I loved more in the Outlander series, the writing style of the Bronze Horseman series encompasses more of what I loved. So I think when it comes to, where are you? Let me get it. When it comes to a battle between Diana Gabaldon's Outlander or the Bronze Horseman series by Paulina Simons, the winner is the Bronze Horseman series by Paulina Simons. So this was, I have wanted to do this video for like the longest time, for like months now. So this was so fun for me. I hope that you guys really enjoyed this video, because I would really like to do more of these sort of versing videos. And I actually got the inspiration to do it when I watched some of my favorite beauty tuber? Is that what they're called? Beauty vlogger Maria Gloria here on YouTube. She versus brands. She likes to verse different brands against each other. And so a little light bulb kind of went off in my head and said, I could do that with books. And of course, the first that had to be was the Bronze Horseman series and Outlander. Because those are always the two series that I could never pick which I love better. But today, we finally made that decision. For me, it's the Bronze Horseman series. And so, I hope that you enjoyed this video, because I would like to do more of these versing type of videos. I don't know if there'll be different series, or I might do specific books, like maybe like standalone books, or like different authors. Yeah, so I sort of like have like those kind of like little ideas in my head, but this one was definitely the first one that I had to do, because this had been in my head to do for a couple of months now. So I guess that's going to be it for this week's video. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. Comment to me which is your favorite series? If you've read both of them, which the different categories that I picked, like for which hero is your favorite of the two? Which heroine is the favorite of the two? Um, Writing styles, settings, sex scenes. Who does the better sex scene? Who are the worst villains of the two? Supporting characters, angst. What did you think about the incident in both? Um, and yeah, just which series would you have picked as your winner? Um, so make sure that you're subscribed, like, comment, do all that fun stuff. I get follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/authorejamie. Like my Facebook page at facebook.com/authorejamie. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!